So I would like to welcome you all to A Cosmic Cuppa. I have a beautiful, beautiful guest this evening called Marcus Bird. How are you, Marcus?
I'm great, Judith. Thank you. I'm wonderful. Great to be here. Great to feel into the beautiful energies that are here in this moment. So thank you for having me.
You're very welcome. And I wonder if I could start by reading out a little bit of your bio.
Well, you could, yes. Why not?
Putting you on the spotlight.
Yeah, no worries.
So Marcus says, "Hi, I'm Marcus. I'm a creator, channel and coach. Some call me the wellness futurist or dimensional performance coach. But really, I'm a global activator for full potential. I'm on a mission to move 1% of the population into a cosmic conscious state. I'm a little crazy about stabilizing people so they can step into and activate their full potential to share their amazing magic and gifts fully on this planet. In particular, supporting wellness professionals to be the biggest version of themselves. What this means is that I don't sleep at nights, as you've been telling me this morning, Marcus.
Yes, true.
Because I'm trying to figure out ways to help you, to help more people by shining more of your light, the truth of who you are and what you're here to do." Sounds a bit ambitious, right?
Sounds a bit ambitious, yes.
It's very ambitious, but you can do it.
Yes, we can do it.
We can do it. My magic revolves around my ability to connect deeply, fast, following the energy and trusting my gut. For me, stabilizing the self so that your resonance, which is the key to mastering everything that does or does not show up in your life, is tuned into the most aligned version of you. I'm here to support, help, and inspire you to achieve a better outcome, better life, and more success, whatever that is for you. I see the possibility in every human, the possibility to be all you are here to be. I really want that for all humans, particularly those that cross my path as we step into a higher level of consciousness, cosmic consciousness. As an author, speaker, and wellness futurist, with over 2 decades experience in the wellness industry, I know the business of wellness inside and out, what methods are sustainable and what training is simply hot air. Now I want to help you unlock your own potential to become the powerful, impactful, and profound wellness leader that you know you're capable of being, which is really beautiful. So I hope you've all got your cuppas at the ready for our Cosmic Cuppa session.
Nice.
So, Marcus, that's a beautiful bio, absolutely beautiful.
Yeah, it sounded good when I heard it. It's not often read to you, so you don't often hear it, right? So
it sounds
so
amazing.
I know. I'm thinking, wow, that's a cool guy. I want to be like him.
That's really you, Marcus, isn't it?
Yes, that's great.
So, can we please start by, I invite you to tell us what life was like for you growing up and what led to your cathartic moment that changed your life forever?
Oh, okay, that's a big question. 2 big questions in one, actually. What was my life like growing up? Well, I had an interesting upbringing in that, well, two things really. When I was younger, it was fairly tumultuous or in turmoil. My parents got divorced when I was 5, and a lot of my early childhood memory is yelling and screaming and me hiding behind the couch or, sort of ducking for cover, I suppose is probably the main memories I sort of have from that period. And then a lot of confusion about what just happened and why don't I see Dad anymore? You know, that typical sort of stuff that a 5-year-old would do. And then I think through my younger childhood, I learned strategies that were not necessarily positive to try and, see more of him and get more of his love and all that sort of stuff. I used to, one of the insights I got many years later was that I used to make myself sick. And I used to get tonsillitis a lot, and a number of other chest colds, but I used to get them very consistently, because what I realized was that when I was sick, he would come and visit and he would pay me attention. So it was kind of a clever strategy for a young child or under 10-year-old to implement. But obviously, as I got older into my teens and in my 20s, and I realized, well, being sick all the time is probably not the most beneficial thing to do. So I soon realized what that strategy was, and then made all sorts of changes to stop it, of course. And then through as I grew a bit older, I lived in two worlds, really. I lived in a world of abundance and a world of lack, in that my father was very wealthy, so I was very lucky to grow up in a wealthy environment. But on the other hand, my mother wasn't. And so I had three things that played out for me in that experience. One was, well, this is what abundance is like, and that's kind of interesting and cool. This is what lack's like, that's kind of interesting and cool. And this is the unfairness on our planet, where one person has a lot but keeps it away from the person that doesn't have a lot. So at the time, my father, and he's changed a lot since, so I'm not having sort of a go at him, but at the time was very sort of hold on to his money, and didn't give my mum anything, and tried to avoid a lot of things, although he gave me everything, right? So on one hand, he tried to avoid giving anything to my mum, but gave me private school education and stuff, right? We went on lots of beautiful trips around the world. I got to experience all sorts of things. But then I would go back into my mother's home, where I lived, and we would experience lack, and she would have to have 2 or 3 jobs. And when I was sick, she would still have to go to her job. So I would just go, and I would sleep in the corner of the job, or I'd just be there because I couldn't stay at home when I was that young. And so it's kind of this really weird environment that I grew up in. And I think, but all the way along, you talk about the awakening experience in the second part of your question. All the way along, I think I was awakening or awake in that, I was always fascinated in guides and angels and energies and people who've crossed over and all sorts of stuff like that. Right through my childhood, I can remember, just having conversations about that or doing things around that. And, whenever my school friends wanted to have a bit of fun with, ghosts or energies, I was the dude that they call on, because I was the one who was connected. And, but I think as you go, past into your teenage and past, I then fell into the rhythm of expectation, as in, I went and did the jobs that I thought I was meant to do based on my, my socioeconomic background and my father. And I think that's when the big awakening came, when I gave myself chronic fatigue syndrome, and I was a corporate Jedi, and doing the corporate work, doing the right job, and the fun thing I always say is I had the right wife, the right house in the right suburb, I had the right car in the right garage, I had the right friends, all of those things that was expected of me. None of which was really aligned to who I truly was. But there was no way of getting out of that without a fairly abrupt and aggressive, I suppose, awakening experience. And I think my awakening was crazy. I went on a 3-lifetime, journey of awakening in the space of 2 years. Like this crazy fast track of awakening, and that changed my whole life. And we wouldn't be here talking today if that hadn't have happened. And wouldn't have created the activator process and frequency medicine. All the things that I do now just would never have happened. I'd probably, because I expected that I'd just go to the corporate job, I'd work my 30 or 40 years, I'd retire, Do you know what I mean? And just, yeah, I don't know, just do what you do in that old world. And sometimes, every now and then, you reflect back on that. You go, you know what? I could have just stayed in that. It would have been easy. There would have been no dramas. I would have been oblivious to so many things. Would have been great, right? It wouldn't have been, obviously, but it's just kind of interesting to watch those sliding door moments where you think back and go, okay, yeah, because I remember when I did quit the job because I was so sick, and I went back and I got well, obviously. I often got offers, big offers, to go back into that space, big numbers. And yeah, every now and then I think, wow, I could have taken that number and, just being comfortable. But that's not what we're here to be. See, we're not here to be comfortable. We're here to be the expression of our true selves, of our fullness. And to some degree, that nature in itself is a bit rebellious. Do you know what I mean? Like, for us to step into that beautiful harmonic nature of who we are, that fullness of who we are, comes with it a level of rebelling and well, a couple of things. It comes with it leadership, comes with it, or maybe reluctant leadership. It comes with it rebelling, and it comes with it the opportunity or the need to stand strong in who you are with your convictions and your beliefs and your understanding, when everyone around you will probably tell you the opposite, or be oblivious to it, and will think you're crazy or stupid or a lunatic or whatever. So it takes a lot of conviction, and yeah, it takes a lot of that. So it's definitely not the easiest road, for sure, but I think it's the most fulfilling and rewarding. And it's kind of nice to exist here knowing that you're making a difference and that you're on purpose. I think if I had stayed in the job, there would have been no conviction or purpose, or I would have just been doing the doing, like, and that whole getting up every morning and going to work and coming home and over, day after day. And as I think about it now, I go, oh God, that's just such a soul killer, right? That's just horrible to even think of. At the time, obviously, I didn't necessarily think of that before the awakening, because I didn't know any better. And as they say, when you take the red pill, you really can't go back. It's so true, because I reckon I'd last a week in that sort of job and I'd just go, oh my God, just take me out the back and put me out of my misery now. Anyway, yeah, so that's part of, yes. I hope that answered your question.
Absolutely. And it's interesting that we can be in our comfort zone with our cozy slippers on by the fire and feel this is it, this is everything. But there comes a moment where things can change irrevocably from where they were. And knowing that at a deeper level, we have a soul contract that we contracted before we were born to come and do certain things. And I've written down here, we come into this life with a blueprint, a mission, where we contract to meet certain people, events, and catalysts, such as you had, that shape our lives and have the potential for change. We each decide to incarnate upon this planet at a particular point in time and space. We come to teach and learn our life's lessons. Could you talk a little on this subject, please, and your understanding of this huge game plan at work?
Yeah, totally. So there's this interesting journey of dropping into various lives over various time spans and coming in to experience various dimensions of reality and then popping out again. And from a grand scale point of view, we're here for such a short period of time, really. Like, it's a drop in the ocean. It doesn't feel like it sometimes when we're here. I feel like it's a long time, but I think I think part of it is a journey to experience these things and to create ripples and bumps in the universe to help the universe to expand and grow. And predominantly, this is a consciousness journey and a resonant frequency journey, that we come in, and the more we're fully embracing ourselves, the more we're going to be sharing, these beautiful harmonic frequencies of consciousness that help the universe to expand, help everything to expand. And this is just an experience that we're having. It's an interesting experience, and we can label it whatever way we want: fun, painful, exciting, scary, all of these sort of things. And they're just sort of labels, really. But having that understanding, or at least considering that possibility that, okay, I'm here for some purpose, right? I didn't just randomly show up just because I thought this would be a fun thing to do, that maybe there is a purpose and a place for me here. And half the journey is finding out what that is, and the other half of the journey is living it fully, right? And that can be an interesting journey in itself to work that out. And I think that may be the best way to make sense of this, because if we try to think too logically about this journey, then not much of it makes sense. That we just appear out of nowhere and we're here to do a job 40 hours a week, or we're here to do, whatever, but really be quite selfish in a way in our existence, right? Because most people on the planet are fully selfish in the existence, not selfish necessarily from an ego narcissistic point of view, although some do, but even just from an existing point of view. We go to work to make money for ourselves, to keep a roof over our head, to feed ourselves, to and maybe we extend that out a little bit to other people in community or the communities we're involved with. And certainly some people do more of that than others, but for a majority of people, it's quite a selfish journey. And I think sitting in that understanding that we're here for a reason, and then part of the, we've got to work out what that reason is and then live it fully, allows us, even in that thought process, to expand out into the world and to consciously and share more of who we are in a very unselfish way. And again, I'm not necessarily talking about the selfish of I'm just going to sort of keep everything to myself and do nothing for anyone, versus I'm going to go and work in a soup kitchen every week and I'm going to give everything away. And I'm not sure either of those are correct, right? Because they're at two extremes of maybe a similar energy. But just that fact of being on the journey, having the awareness of, okay, I'm here for a reason, will allow us to share more of, the energy of who we are, which is going to have an effect on the planet. One of the things we're really sure of is that, and we see it all the time when we stabilize clients, what we call stabilized clients, bring them into a harmonic resonance, is that once someone comes into that, and from a practical point of view, that could look like I know why I'm here and I'm on purpose, and I'm fully aligned with that purpose and I'm clear. That's going to create harmonic energy fields around you. And what ends up happening is everything around you changes. Not because you went out and fed, those who are less fortunate than you, or you donated time, or you did some of these very practical sort of things, which can make you feel fantastic. And again, there's a whole lot of people who do it just to feel better about themselves, which is fine. But what's more important is to be on purpose. And even if you did nothing from an action point of view, but just exuded and be that purpose, everything around you is going to change. And so my passion, or my desire to bring 1% of the population into a cosmic conscious state, is about having that experience. And again, we see it all the time, that someone works on themselves, comes into a harmonic resonant state, and then the people around them, immediately around them, also come into a harmonic resonant state, and they totally change. And it's a really beautiful experience. And I think part of that is what you just, what the question is around being on purpose, finding your purpose, aligning to why you're here, and that, this isn't just some random event. This is a very purposeful journey that you chose to be on.
I love the fact you said that it expands the universe as well.
Yes. Yes.
It's like, often I've thought, well, what am I here to do? How am I expanding in my understanding, not only for myself, but others? But we're actually expanding everything else around us, which makes perfect sense, because we are that, and that is us.
Without a doubt, and I think the question that you asked around, your part of it around why am I here, or even that question lots of people at some point in time ask, it's exactly the same answer to what the universe is doing itself. So you could also ask the question of why is the universe here? Like, what is the point, And again, the point is that expansion, that expansion of consciousness and aware, just that expansion. Its purpose is to expand and to grow and to evolve and to experience itself. And we're exactly the reflection of that,
Yeah,
because we are part of it.
Yes.
We are part of it. We are one particle in a sea of expanded consciousness or universal consciousness. And we are one version of that universal consciousness.
Yes, I love that. Love that.
Yeah.
We're all on a journey of discovery. Marcus, you're going to say something?
Yeah, we could imagine that with that one note in a scale of frequencies, or with a one instrument in an orchestra playing the most beautiful tune, which is creating everything we see. Because from a quantum point of view, quantum physics point of view, and in truth point of view, everything is frequency. And therefore we are one instrument or one note or one part of that grand song or tune that's being played right now. And how we play our instrument determines how expanded or beautiful the song is heard. And you can relate this to music, in that when music is harmonic and it is that beautiful sound, it tends to permeate everything and expand itself and expand us. When we listen to beautiful music, we close our eyes and feel that frequency, that harmonic resonance, we naturally just expand. And if it's a disharmonic resonance, the opposite is also true. So the more we can become in line with that tune and that song and that orchestra, the more we help that orchestra to expand itself and to share its beautiful resonant frequency. And anyway, it expands everything.
Yes, beautiful. To have the curiosity of a child is key. To learn and evolve can be exciting.
Yes.
Humanity is waking up to more understanding for the potential of itself. It has been a hard undertaking for many as we move through the birth pangs into a new era. You say, Marcus, you're on a mission to move 1% of the population into a cosmic consciousness state.
Yes.
Which I find amazing and profound. Humanity has been at this point several times before and failed to hold the frequencies. How, in your understanding, will it this time be achieved? And do you see the end result of this activating more of our energetic potential permanently?
Yeah, it's an interesting situation, because the possibility is that we succeed this time or fail again. Like that's the real possibility here. And the fun part about it is we're coming closer and closer to that time where we either succeed or we fail again. Like we are, and I think we've been moving towards that for some time. The difference, one of the differences in this moment, is that for a long time we've been in a devolutionary state. So in the last sort of fall, which wasn't a full collapse of humanity like has been in the past, but really a controlled devolution. The difference now is we've turned a corner back into an evolutionary state, and that reality is fast happening. So if that can continue, then I think the possibility is that we will succeed this time. If we kept going on a devolutionary state, then possibly not. I think that's possibly leading us into a dangerous period. But because we're at the cusp of this, we could have either or reality unfold on itself. And there are there's kind of some interesting sort of more negative markers that could show us that we're going into that. And there are some really interesting positive markers that show us that we're going into the opposite. So So it's a fascinating time to be alive, and it's a really important time to be here. And I think this is where my passion for the mission is pretty strong, in the fact that if this mission was around 20 or 30 years ago, which some people did have these versions of missions, then, you know, I don't think it was as crucial whether there was success or not success. Whereas now I think it's way more crucial that we have that success, because the more people that we can get to step into that and expand in their resonant sort of frequency field, which again is consciousness. Frequency and consciousness are pretty interchangeable. Then the more chance we've got this time, because we've turned a corner from devolution to evolution, whereas 20, 30 years ago, we were still well in the devolutionary state. 50 years ago, 100 years ago, 1,000 years ago, we were still in the devolutionary state. So whereas now we've turned a corner. And there are some interesting markers to sort of show that that's exactly what's happened. So we know that's true. We know that we've turned the corner. We know that we're on an evolutionary cycle now, and not so much a devolutionary cycle, although the battle still plays out between devolution and evolution. That battle is still existing, but the devolutionary side is losing the battle versus the evolutionary side. But again, this is why it's critically important that we all step into this space, because every one of us has a role to play in this. Whether you believe in whatever you believe in is irrelevant. We're all sort of in this space now to take our place, to be in that conscious evolutionary mindset, which again, you could call a cosmic conscious state. But we need more of us doing that. And the quantum physics experiments and science shows that if we can move 1% of consciousness or 1% of atomic structure into a certain state, then the rest of the atoms follow place. They did lots of experiments on hydrogen atoms, for example, and when they put 1% of the hydrogen atoms into a coherent state, all the other atoms then also went into that coherent state. So this is where the 1% comes from, because we know that if we can get 1% of, particles into a sort of coherent state, which is an expanded consciousness state, which is a harmonic resonant state, then everything else will then fall into place. Now, as part of the shift from one state to another, from one reality to another, from one dimension to another, or one frequency to another, you're always going to go through a destabilized state, because for a frequency or a reality or a dimension to move from one version to another version, the old version has to crumble and the new version has to appear. And that looks like destabilization. So right now, we're in one of the most destabilized times we've been on the planet for a long time. Not so much that, because the other destabilizing times were wars and these sort of conflicts, but we're still in a devolutionary state. That's why those things appeared, whereas we're now in an evolutionary state. So it's appearing differently to what it's appeared before, which again is a good bench or marker for the shift and the change. But we're right in the destabilized state. So for us, for individuals who are more consciously aware, our role is to stay in a stable state, to live our harmonic resonant self and hold that space. And that's not easy. And this is why taking the red pill, as we said before, is not easy, because we're trying to hold a stable state in a very destabilized environment. And unless you have a expanded consciousness, you're not going to be able to do that, because you'll be drawn back into that stuff again and again and again, because it wants to draw you in. It wants you to destabilize. It wants you to be affected by it. Whereas we have to hold really strong and not fall prey to that. And the only way to do that is to, have that understanding of harmonics and have the understanding of expanded consciousness and expanded conscious awareness. It's the only way it's going to work.
Beautiful. I think unity consciousness is key.
Yeah.
There's something here you wrote, which I really, really like.
Okay. Yay.
I've been picking your words as well as your brains, I hope.
Yay. Yay.
We need to stop fighting against the chaos and start to out-vibrate it with our most aligned and harmonic resonance pattern, which you've been talking about.
Beautiful.
That grounds it out.
Yes.
When you align your system into a more harmonic resonance pattern, then amplify that pattern, you begin to shift reality itself
Yep.
and create a more stable, calm, and clear reality. I love these words from you, Marcus.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I would love you to speak about the resonance patterns, how we
Yeah.
focus and how what we focus on manifests more into the space-time matrix, and the importance of stabilizing ourselves.
Yeah. 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 So, so this is a critical piece of information right now, I think, and I do love that. I know I sort of wrote it, but that whole idea about vibrating what's going on, and what that really means is that as you tune into chaotic or disharmonic vibrations that are playing out, and that could come through your belief system, it could come through thought patterns, it could come through feelings, it could appear in a lot of different ways, that your focus remains in the harmonic stabilization of self, so that what you're emitting into the world is not a echo reflection of what's already existing or what's playing out, so a destabilized frequency, but that you're emitting the harmonic version of what we actually want to see and experience in the world. And as you hold that space, you change reality itself, and you change the harmonic structure of reality from a destabilized state to a stabilized state. The universe, in its innate beautiful wisdom, is always trying to move towards stable states. It's always trying to move towards a more harmonic reality. So you actually start to work with the universe when you work in that harmonic resonant nature or that stable state, versus when you stay in a destabilized state and you just sort of follow what's playing out. You're not actually, as aligned with or working in harmony with the universe as much as you could be. So although it seems hard to do, right, only by the fact that we've been indoctrinated mentally and emotionally into a de-evolving world, therefore, and the nature of that is quite destabilized, therefore it's easier, or a lazy way of existing is to just play into that, right? And again, from a very practical point of view, playing into that is holding belief systems, is getting emotionally involved or caught up in things, is holding states that don't resonate with you and resonate with what you actually want to have happen in the world. One of the great exercises is to be in neutral states about various belief things. So one of the things that I was guided to do quite a bit, and I talk a little bit about this, is that one of the ways to expand your consciousness and step into a more harmonic reality while everything's playing out is not to hook into any one belief or another. And the little silly example that I give, which may not be silly depending on your belief system and how strongly hooked into it you are, but if you're not hooked into it, then this is kind of a fun little example, in that, for a long while there was this conversation about flat Earth, round Earth, right? Which is kind of a fun conversation. Is the Earth flat or is it round, right? Now, I haven't been out into space, so I can't guarantee you which is right. Like, in all honesty, I can't. I can tell you what I think it is based on a belief system that I have, based on what I've been told, right? But in actuality, I can't really tell you what it is, and no one can really tell you what it is. So the key with this is, rather than sit in one belief system or another, you sit right in the middle of the reality, which is the most expansive state to sit in, which is the Earth could be round for sure, and the Earth could be flat without a doubt. It could be. But I'm not necessarily going to take sides on any of those sides. I'm just going to sit in the middle and just go, yeah, that's true. It could be. And when I sit in that space, I can actually be in a more stable, harmonic space than if I was at one end or the other. And again, it's a bit like a seesaw or a teeter-totter if you're in the US, where if you want to stay stable on a teeter-totter and on a seesaw, don't sit at one end or the other, because that's the ends that go bang, up and down, up and down. And if you're brother or your friend decides to jump off at the other end when you're in the up position, you're in all sorts of trouble. Whereas if you straddle the middle of a seesaw, it doesn't matter if the seesaw is going up and down. You can hold stability as the seesaw is going up and down. And this is the sort of example of being in the most stable harmonic state from a very practical point of view, is that you start to let go of any belief system you have. Now that's a scary proposition for a lot of people, right? Because we tend to anchor into belief systems because it gives us something to hold on to. It helps us to feel that we're holding on to a truth that's real and valid, and I've got something to anchor me in, right? Because if I don't have something to anchor me in, who am I? What is this? Oh my God, I don't know. So then it feels like, and when you first go into this, you'll feel a bit lost and confused and without a rudder, right? But when you do embrace this fully, you realize that the rudder you're going to find is a way deeper truth and much more aligned with the universe itself. And it's actually quite freeing when you sit in that space. And so one of the ways to test this and to go, okay, great, Marcus, that's a lovely thing to say, thank you. But how do I know that's true, or how do I test your theory, is that the next time you get triggered by something, you're watching on social media or on the news or someone's talking, then go, okay, I'm being triggered because they're telling me something that goes against a belief system I have. Okay, great. So what is the belief system I have? And I'm now going to choose to let go of that and sit in the middle of it. So that takes a whole lot of expanded consciousness to do. And I actually had this experience the other day for myself, where I was watching social media, and I have a little bit of a belief, or had a belief, about what was going on in the US and with certain presidents and all that sort of stuff. And I tend to believe or think that I have an expanded version of what's going on, and I can see that, that certain people are put in place to help expand and anyway, I don't want to impart any old belief system I had, right? But I saw a friend of mine had the total opposite belief that I had. And my first reaction was, oh my God, I don't know whether I can be friends with this person anymore. Like, it was quite an interesting reaction, right? Not my normal reaction, but it came up so that I could use it as an example, maybe. So my first thing was, oh, that's weird. I don't know how I feel about this now. How can they have that belief system? I thought they were awake. Because I'm awake, so my belief has to be right because I'm awake, right? So anything I believe would 100% be right because I'm awake. I know the silly things that our ego brain plays out, right? Anyway, when I stopped after a few minutes, right, of the reaction, or when I became aware of the reaction, I went, okay, I'm going to practice what I preach. And go, you know what? I'm just going to sit in the middle of this and go, hang on a minute. So the belief system I had may be wrong. Wow, that's interesting. And the belief system they have could be right. Wow, I wonder what would happen then. So part of the exercise is I contemplate that my belief system may be wrong and theirs may be right. That's the first thing I do. Then the second thing I do is go, right, maybe they're wrong and I'm wrong, or maybe they're right and I'm right. What then? That starts to bring me into the center, because if they're right and I'm right, oh my God, that's a conundrum, right? Now I can't sit on either side, because that doesn't make sense, because they could both be wrong or they could both be right. If you're into quantum physics experiments, it's the classic Schrodinger's cat experiment, right? Which is a thought experiment. So that naturally starts to bring me into the center, where then I let go of one being right or both being wrong, and I just be with it. No longer have a belief about it, no longer have an opinion about whether it's right, wrong, or indifferent. I'm just there with it, and I'm just expanding beyond it, because the only way to sit in the middle of any belief system is to expand beyond the belief system. You can't, if you're holding any belief, you can't expand. Your beliefs will stop you from expanding. And the fun thing about beliefs is that they change all the time. It's like science. 1 minute science believes this is true, and then a year later, 10 years later, 50 years later, they go, either it was true or it's not true. Now there's another expanded version of it. And it's kind of fascinating, the acceleration of science realities right now. And that's another benchmark of evolution happening again. in that science is finding all sorts of new things right now that they thought might take 100 years or 1,000,000 years to find, or they'd never find. And oh my God, all of a sudden it's appearing. It's appearing because we've moved into a new dimension and an evolutionary state. It's nothing special or terribly amazing what's happening. It's just another benchmark. But anyway, from a practical point of view, and again, if you want to expand your consciousness, come into a more harmonic state, challenge whatever you believe in. You know, you can keep believing in it. It's totally your choice. If you want to believe one thing is one way or another, totally go for it. But if you want to really expand, then challenge that within yourself to sit right in the middle of beliefs and see what happens. It's kind of fascinating. It's harder than it looks, but it's fascinating when you truly sit in that space.
So you're telling me that I can't tell everyone that I'm the best baker of sponge cakes ever?
Well, you could, as long as we get to taste the sponge cake to prove that's right. And you can keep a belief system, right? Because this is the ironic thing. Often when I talk about this, people then get all upset that, what do you mean I can't have a belief system? It's like, you can have whatever you want. I don't care. Depending on what you're here to do and what you actually want to achieve, right? If you're wanting to achieve a certain thing, then maybe holding on to belief systems isn't going to actually help you to achieve that.
To me,
right?
the best friends you know are the ones that agree or disagree, but love you anyway.
That's right.
That's being in that fulcrum point, isn't
it? That helps to be in the fulcrum point. Where I'm talking about taking it to another level where you're not just accepting of someone else's belief, but you're actually sitting in the middle of the belief. Because if you're accepting of someone's belief, you're still holding the belief, right? Because you're saying, I have this belief, but I'm going to accept their belief, which is totally the opposite of my belief. So this is taking it one step further and going, you know what? I'm going to shift out of my belief and I'm going to shift out accepting their belief. And I'm going to come into the middle there where both beliefs are real, not real at the same time, exist or don't exist. And I'm going to hold that center point.
I love that. And you're quite right.
Yeah, it's fascinating to do it. It's easier said than done.
Yeah.
You know, and the ego mind is not going to like it. The ego hates this exercise because the ego loves to anchor into a belief. And then it loves to anchor into my belief is the belief, like it is the truth. And your belief is not the truth. And it's like, well, hang on a minute. This is how wars start. Right? And this is why this is why humanity to some degree has been like this, is because I'm holding my belief, whether it's religious belief or whether it's just whatever other belief, and you're holding your belief. And we're going to fight over that. Now, yes, there are beliefs worth fighting for, right? And there are, again, if you sit in the middle of beliefs, you'll sit into a more universal truth of beliefs. And okay, so if you think about highly evolved beings, right? So if we think about our off-world being friends, and let's for 1 minute believe they exist, right? You can sit in the middle of that, no problem. But let's pretend, right, that they exist. You know, one of the things that they don't have is they don't have jails, and they don't have courts, and they don't have police, and they don't have any of these things because of their level of expanded consciousness, because everybody in those societies just know what's right. They don't have to believe what's right. They just know what's right. So there's an underlying universal truth that exists, right? And when you sit in the middle of a belief, you start to sit into that underlying universal truth. So again, you know, you could sit here and say, well, you know, I believe there are some people who are bad because they rob, and I don't believe robbing someone's a good thing. I totally agree. But again, if you sit in the middle of that, everyone will come to the same reality that hurting someone else goes against universal principles. Robbing from someone else goes against universal principles. Attacking someone, fighting someone, killing someone, blah, blah, they all go against universal principles, which when you're fully in the center of everything, everyone naturally knows. So no one would do any of that sort of stuff. When you're anchored in these belief systems, then people do that stuff, right? You've got more than me. I want that. That's not fair. That's not fair. I'm going to hurt you. It's how it happens. Anyway.
Yeah. Well said.
Sorry.
Don't be sorry. It's all beautiful.
Yeah.
It is good to grow from the inside out.
Yeah.
It's from the heart, gut, and head that we have a deeper understanding of who we are.
Yes.
Could you talk on these three aspects, please, in your understanding?
Totally. So I think to understand that, I'll just go back a little bit and sort of give a deeper understanding of how we exist. I know it's a big question to us. Well, big answer to a small question, but so okay. So again, if we look at how creation happens, and I'll do the fast version of it. The universe creates a wobble. It's a consciousness wobble. That creates a vibration. The very vibration creates a frequency. Frequency creates a geometry. Geometry is the blueprint for subatomic and atomic particles to come together for matter to be created. Okay, that's the basis of my answer. The next part about it is that every aspect of you is a frequency. So every part of you holds a frequency, from the subatomic particles, atoms, molecules, cells, organs, systems of the body, all emit frequencies. And if we isolated one of those components, we could isolate the fundamental frequency of that component. So to live a harmonic life, you have to have all of these components singing the same song, theoretically or practically. There are three core energy centers or centers that help make this happen, and that is the three brains in the body: the head brain, the heart brain, the gut brain. And we know there are neurons in the brain, we know there are neurons in the heart, and we now know there are neurons in the gut. So they're these sort of core centers that help try to keep all of the sounds, all of the frequencies that are happening, keep them playing the same song and keep them in harmony. Illness is a representation of a disharmonic resonant pattern within the body. So what that means is there are certain parts of your body that have now either come out of tune or playing a different song or not playing the way they should be playing. And so then the aim of the healing in particular is to bring everything back into a harmonic resonant state, stability being sort of the key focus, because harmonic resonant states are stable states and disharmonic resonant states are destabilized states. So from a full body point of view, we want all of the cells and organs and subatomic particles and atoms and molecules and all of these things singing all in tune with each other, creating a harmonic version of you. So if you're not well, you are somewhere in your body has created disharmonic resonant states. So the head, heart, and gut are the sort of core centerpieces that help keep all of these things in rhythm, keep all of these things in harmonics, tuned and playing the right song. And so they become really important centers of the body that help to play these harmonic frequencies or keep everything in harmony. It's a little bit like mini conductors, sort of. The main sort of conductor is where we start to think about DNA and start to go into those sort of gene patterns, and that's probably more the conductor of keeping the harmonics. But the head, heart, and gut are very big aspects of that. Now, the biggest problem with those is there is a hierarchy to some degree of that, based on what those aspects are now tuned into to then bring you into a harmonic state. And from a purely holistic point of view, we theoretically should be following the gut, the heart, and the brain. In that, we should be responding to the world through that process, which is we sense into all of the frequencies that are coming into our body, that are part of our body, through the gut. The gut gives us direction as to what's really playing out, why maybe there's a disharmonic resonance somewhere, or what's going on. That information should then be processed by the heart, which the final step should be processed by the head. So what happens is the gut takes in the information and goes, there's a harmonic disturbance here. The heart then takes that in and feels into that harmonic disturbance and starts to get some idea of why that's happened. And then the head should take it on to go, okay, that's what that means. Now I know how to fix it, right? And does the action of fixing it. The issue with humanity in a devolutionary state is that was flipped, that this was the master, then the heart, then the gut, if you're lucky. And they desperately try to keep people out of the gut, out of intuition, away from that. And therefore what happened is the head that tries to resolve something is the first point of call, That then takes that problem to the heart. The heart then gets all confused because it's got no insight as to what's really going on. So then it gets overly emotional, which then bounces back to the head and destabilizes that head brain. And then there's this vicious back and forward between the heart and the head. And there's no real stabilizing nature of the gut, which gives us the truth of something. So the gut will take in all the information and it'll give us the truth of what's going on. The heart can then process that truth and go, this is what it's about. I'm going to breathe out and it's all good. And then the head can take it and go, now I fully understand what's going on. Now I can make decisions and respond correctly. But without all of that hierarchy of information, the head just goes crazy. The heart then also goes crazy because there's no guidance system, right? Because the head's not a very good guidance system. So the heart's definitely not a good guidance system, or the emotions. And the gut is really the only true sort of guidance system because it's fully connected into the universal construct, whereas the heart and the head, not so much. So it's a bit like a, triangle where all of the information comes in at the gut, a little bit at the heart and tiny bit at the head. But we've flipped that triangle upside down, and that's a devolutionary process, right? So a part of our role is to flip that pyramid or that, triangle up the other way. When we do that, we connect deeper in with the truth. We sense into resonant or harmonic or disharmonic resonant frequencies. We understand the truth more. We know what's really going on, and then we can utilize the heart and the head to help us to execute on that in a really stable, harmonic way.
That's beautiful, Marcus. I couldn't have put it better myself.
Thank you.
Beautiful, beautiful.
Yeah.
I would love to hear you speak on the Centre for Quantum Healing, your mission with this project, how you see it unfolding, and particularly where frequency medicine is concerned. And just take this where you want to go, because it's
okay.
Beautiful, beautiful. I don't even call it a business, really, because it's more than a business.
Yeah, it is.
Go with this?
Yeah, look, I think the core focus here, and for everything we've talked about and the complexities that seem to appear, it's really quite simple in that it is about stable harmonic frequencies. I mean, that's the real key with this. The more harmonic you are, the more stable you are, the more stable you are, the more harmonic you are. You can play those words. They're pretty, they're quite similar in a way. The core of any of this, though, is frequency. That is the absolute core. And the more harmonic the frequency is, the more stable it becomes. So you can tackle it from a stability point of view, and that will create more harmonic frequency, or you can tackle it from a frequency point of view, and that will create more stability. So they are different, but in a way they support each other. So the real focus for me is to help sort of educate, inform, guide, mentor, people to embrace this reality or to tune into this reality. I'm not here to tell anyone what's true or real, but just to sort of feel into the nature of that and help you to live a more abundant, life. In some ways, it's about returning ourselves to that sort of master creator status, which is that we are master creators, and under that guise, we theoretically create everything in our world. And I know we've probably heard that many, many times before, but coming back to that master creator status allows us to once again evolve and just make the shifts and changes on the planet. And we do that from, like you said before, the inside out. So from a quantum healing point of view, I really want to help introduce people to this work. I want people who already know about this, and most people who come into it have some idea of it. I want to help them to embrace this at a much deeper level. What we've talked about today is just a tip of the iceberg, like just a tiny bit of information on this, and the most sort of, simple version possible. But it goes really deep. And when you start looking at things, like you mentioned around frequency medicine, which has been hidden and pushed away for such a long period of time, having a tool like that helps you to step into that master creator status, because everything's created by frequency. And so if you can master that, if you can have some way of working with that, then all manner of incredible things can happen. And there's so much research going on the planet right now around frequency medicine in particular. There's two things that I share with people. One is the activator process, which is all about stabilizing someone in space and time, or frequency sort of medicine, quantum harmonics, which is all about creating harmonic frequencies and managing or manipulating or not being able to work with the frequencies, universal quantum frequencies, to help change someone's reality for the better, and bring them back into a harmonic state. So we're sort of not changing their reality, we're bringing them into a harmonic state, and just doing that will change their reality. Because obviously most people who come and see me or any of my practitioners are in a destabilized state. So they're in sickness or illness, whether that's mental, physical, emotional, whatever, and their desire is to come back into a well state. So for us in Activator, by stabilizing someone, that's what will happen. And in frequency medicine, by creating and applying harmonic resonant frequencies, will bring them back into that state as well. So, and I think this is, what I'm most passionate about, is helping people to understand that and to see that, you can work quite simply with some of these things and have incredibly profound results, and I know you've experienced this. And, even in the early phases of doing things like the activator process, what might look stupidly basic can have incredibly profound effects, because both activator and frequency medicine still work with frequency, right? It's just slightly different versions of the energy of that. And I think that's what I'm super passionate about. And of late, I've been doing lots of research on frequency medicine, and just some of the shifts and profound changes we can make at a physiological level with people is just incredible. Even if someone doesn't believe in it, or, any of that stuff, it moves matter itself. And I kind of love it because it has a very tech aspect to it, and I'm a bit into tech, as anyone will tell you. And, some of the recent research is they've been able to create basic life forms just out of frequency. They've been able to make these forms create themselves and almost haven't yet, but almost create life just out of using frequencies. And I think that's kind of crazy and profound. So we're doing a lot of research into that space at the moment. And as I mentioned to you before, I'm just about to run a 2-hour workshop on frequencies. And again, just to help share that information with people, whether they come and study it or work with it or use it is irrelevant. Just the fact of understanding it or having your eyes opened a little bit more to it, either the research that's playing out or the experiences we've had, or that expands consciousness. So, so I'm really passionate about people just coming to experience those sort of things. And as I said to you, Judith, I would love to offer anyone who's watching this, a free ticket to that event, which is coming up on the 10th of May, 2025. And we're going to be running it over time occasionally. But yeah, I'd love to give any of your listeners and everyone who's here, Bev and Larry and Karen and Francis and Leaf, and, if you'd like to, find out more, or, just journey down that, interesting pathway, I'd love you guys to come along, because it's kind of fascinating what's happening.
That's beautiful. Maybe Lee could put this up underneath or when it's edited, so that we know
totally
what that's all about. Thank you.
Yeah, totally.
I love frequency medicine. I love energy medicine.
Yeah.
To me, it is key. And it's something I love working with is energy work.
Absolutely.
Huge passion.
It is totally. And it's one of the keys. And I think that both of them work really beautifully together, because energy is frequency, frequency is energy, right? They are sort of one in the same, and you can work with them in slightly different ways, but they absolutely complement each other, because it's really the same at the core.
The thing I love about now is between the thought and the action, which is in the field that we are all around us, everywhere at once. When you have the thought for something,
yes,
the universe will come to you. They say, take one step toward grace, it will take 1,000 steps toward you. So everything is in our field, And when
Yeah.
we think of something that we wish to manifest, it
Mm.
can come to us as long as we are stabilized and not blocked
Yeah.
so quickly, and more
Ah,
now than ever for manifestation in this realm.
yeah. Things can happen incredibly quickly. Again, if we're working in the right order of the brains, if you work with your logic brain, then things take a long time because certain things have to happen for certain things to happen. Whereas when you're working at a deeper level, it almost seems like nothing has to happen for things to happen, right? But only because you're shifting a resonant frequency state, and resonant frequency states and energy are the things that create everything. So if you shift and change at that level, then things get created instantly. I mean, the universe itself is creating things instantly all the time. Every millisecond, every moment of every moment, it's creating new things all the time. I mean, you just look inside your body, it's creating new chemical, all sorts of stuff. Oh my God, there's so much happening in your body in any given moment, right? And the universe, in some respects, is creating those things in every given moment. So things can happen instantly. And you can, at a very practical level, you can go from happy to sad instantly. You can go from, struggle to thriving instantly. You can go from sickness to wellness instantly. You can go from lack to abundance instantly, and it's funny because kids know this, they understand that things are spherical, not linear. Our head works, see, this is another funny one. Our head works linearly, and our gut works spherically, right? And kids, before they get caught in the linear and have the pyramid switched, they live in that circular reference or that spherical reference. And one of the great research projects I accidentally ran was looking at my own kids. And it used to fascinate me when I used to watch my kids 1 minute crying, oh my God. And then instantly, like nothing happens. So you get invested in it as an adult, and as a linear brain adult going, oh, you poor thing, what happened? Tell us all about, oh, what happened? Oh, no, you just do this and just do this and you'll be fine. But they'll switch instantly. So 1 minute, and then you're trying to catch up, and then all of a sudden they're laughing, and you're like, hang on a minute, whoa, what happened? You were really upset, now you're really happy. Where did? Because we as adults often have been told we have to go along a path to go from sadness to happiness, and that path means we need to do certain things, and then eventually we become happy. Kids know that it's circular, and that there's this little gap at the top. On one side of the gap is sadness, on one side of the gap is happiness. So rather than going all the way around this in a linear fashion to get to happiness, they just jump and they go, I'm sad. Oh, now I'm happy. What? Hang on a minute. How am I going to catch up with this? Because that makes no sense. But that's how the universe works, right? So this is, if we were, like you were saying before, that childlike, space again, we can jump from anything, and this is how miracle healing can happen, right? Most healing happens linear. Oh, for a lot of people, I've got to take a tablet and then that's got to work and I've got to do this and I've got to do this and then I get well. But we've all heard of miracle healings where people seem to heal like that. I mean, I've been bear witness to it using the activator work and frequency work, and I've seen it happen. And it defies logic, but it only defies old logic, not expanded logic, which is, of course, that can happen. Because the universe is manifesting every second of every second, all the time, manifesting things. Things are just appearing out of nowhere. And again, I think, if we come into those harmonic, stable states, we're going to have a much better chance at accessing that. And that's one of the, things that I know you and I are really passionate about, is helping people to access that state, even for our own selves, accessing that state, because I'm still human. I'm still existing in a human form, I should say. And therefore, I still get caught in some of those linear aspects rather than remembering some of the things I sort of talk about and go, no, I can just jump that. But when you keep reminding yourself of that possibility and getting out of that brain that says, no, I've got to do A, B, and C, I've got to work 10 hours to make $10. It's like, no, what if you could just think for 1 minute and make $100,000? I mean, there's nothing in physics, quantum physics, nothing in the universe that says that's not possible. Nothing. In a linear, old worldy, sure, there's lots of reasons why that shouldn't or can't happen, right? But that happens to people. People go and buy a lottery ticket and instantly they become multimillionaires. So there's an example of it just happening. Like, It's possible. Anyway,
You have an amazing team of high vibrational beings who work with you. Would you care to chat about this beautiful collaboration that you personally have?
yeah. So I think in my awakening experience, that's one of the joys that happen, or sometimes it's a joy, sometimes it's across the bear, it feels like, or it has over time. But without sort of going too much into the story, part of my routine to get well at that time, when I gave myself chronic fatigue syndrome and I couldn't work or socialize or talk to friends or really do anything, was to meditate. And I would meditate 3 or 4 hours a day. And it was in one of my sort of meditations where I was visited by these beautiful beings that asked me to take certain information to the world. And over a period of sort of a couple of years, they downloaded all sorts of information about the universe, life, quantum physics, maths, wellness, all sorts of stuff. And this is where I created the Activator Healer Coach program, which used to be called Dimensional Therapy, that I run over the last 30 years, and now frequency medicine. So I have this very interesting relationship with what we might call highly evolved beings. And these are beings that actually exist in physical form. And I can tell you where they live and what it looks like and all sorts of detail about their existence. And their role is really the mission that I'm on, to help all of us to expand and to grow and to live in a more cosmic conscious state. And really their role is to help us to step into the next dimension. That's really what they're trying to do. They've been here once before in Egyptian times. They existed. They've been on the planet way before the Egyptians came, Lemuria and Atlantis, and so they've interacted with humanity many, many times before. And as we de-evolve, that sort of pushed them off the planet because it was too dangerous for them to appear. And so one of the important things also about expanding consciousness is that it's going to allow us to have, be visited and supported and assisted by these beings again in actual physical form, not just through channeling or information sharing like I received, that we'll actually be able to have relationship interaction and with them. And so that's kind of fascinating and interesting. But I've had this relationship for 30 years now. We speak nearly every day, and they give me lots of great insights and information and knowledge and wisdom. And it's kind of been a fascinating journey.
Thank you for sharing that. I have several friends, Marcus, that have higher connections, if you like. And it's incredible, the collaboration that is happening and has happened for some for a very long time. For those that have decided to be on the planet here at this time with a lot of those connections, and making this the most incredible time in history, from the descendancy we've come to now hopefully the ascendancy back up again into these higher realms.
Yeah, totally.
And I wonder if you'd like to tell us a little bit about Ameed, who you are in contact with. Would you be happy to do that?
Yeah, of course. So Ameed is the main sort of being that I, receive information from. She's a beautiful being from feminine energy from the Lyra star system. We converse and communicate, nearly every day or any time, really. So we have a pretty close relationship. And she's just this beautiful, gentle, soft, loving being that is just here to support and help humanity. And, it's kind of interesting. And I've asked her a number of times, why are you doing this? Like, what, surely you've got better things to do. Don't you have a job or somewhere to be or kids to look after? Which is very earthly, human. And, her thing is that when a species goes into the very higher expanded realities that they're in, their role then is to help other species around the universe, right? And that's what their job becomes. And so, as she said to me many times, we all have an off-world mentor. Everyone has an off-world mentor. the fact that you can't hear them or speak to them or channel them or whatever is sort of irrelevant. You have been assigned someone. It's beyond guides and angels and stuff like that. These are living, breathing beings from other planets. And so in the end, you could imagine, right? If you imagine us, 3 dimensions further down the line where we don't have to work and, don't have to do the things that we're doing now to survive, right? Survival is a given, that we don't have to do anything, and that we're all best friends and we're all connected, and we don't actually have to heal anyone, fix anyone. We don't have to help anyone out of struggle. Everyone's in the same place. We're all in this beautiful space. What do you do next? Well, you go find beings that aren't and you go help them, right? And if your planet doesn't have any of those beings anymore, well, you go off-world and you go to other planets to do that work. And that's exactly what these beings do. And this is what this channeling for anyone, not just me with Ameed, but anyone, Cryon or Bashir or any of the sort of channels that you may have heard, it's exactly the same. They have similar sort of messages, or the energy of the messages are very similar. And it's all about evolution, and it's all about helping a species, and it's all about, so they're all doing the same thing because they're all at a similar dimensional level where what else do you do except go help other people, other beings, other species? Like, that's what happens. So then their role is to shift the whole universe. Right now, our role is just to shift some people, right? Their role is, well, that's right, 1%, just a few people here on the planet. But once that's done and everyone's in that space, well, what do you do next? Well, you go off-world and help others. And that's exactly what they do.
It's a beautiful gift to all, actually, isn't it?
It's wonderful. It's wonderful. So, yeah.
Is it possible that we could have a chat with Ameed? Would you be happy for us to?
Possibly, yeah. I often have a rule that says anywhere, anytime. My physical being goes, oh, really? No. And then I made a rule with myself a year or so ago that anywhere, anytime, just to get myself over it, because I'm self-conscious. Well, my humanness is self-conscious. So
totally up to you.
Oh, I'm happy to, if that's what you'd like me to do. Anywhere, anytime.
Thank you.
Do you have any particular questions you'd like to ask?
I do.
Do you? Okay. All right. Yeah, we could do that. No problem at all. So, yeah, I mean, you've been to some of my channelings, so you get it. So,
and I did ask you this before we started.
Probably. And I would have given you the same answer, anywhere, anytime, right? Anywhere, anytime. So, so yeah, all right. So I'll just drop in, and one of the things that people might not be aware of, there's different versions of channeling. Some people do whole body takeovers. Some people just speak through the messages. And I used to speak through the messages, and then I just decided, or we decided, that the best way to do it was for me to get out of the road and to allow Ameed to just use me as a conduit. And I just go on a little vacation. And so when we come out of the channeling, I rarely know what was said. Like, I get snippets often, and I'm sort of more aware of it than I used to be, but I like to sort of get myself out of the road because, I don't want to influence it and have any of my beliefs or whatever influence it, and just have as pure, message as possible is what I like to try and do. So I tend to get out of the road. So after it, it's kind of nice if you guys tell me what happened, because I probably won't. So yeah, so give me 1 minute, and then Judith, if you want to ask the questions, that's absolutely fine.
Thank you.
There's a much of the joyness that we are being here in this of the moment, and you're of the channel is feeling much of the unexpected nature of this communication, but we are much of the pleasing and much of the joyfulness that we can be here in this of the moment, to be in of the service to whatever of the questions that you would like to be of the asking. And we are feeling of the energy in this of the moment, and we would like to be of the invitingness and of the embracingness of this of the possibility. We know that your channel has been speaking of many of the aspects that we have been of the teaching and of the sharing. We are much excited at aware of the evolutionary nature of your species is meeting in this of the moment. But we are understanding you have many of the questions, and we would be of the lovingness if to be in of the sharing this experience in the togetherness.
Thank you, Ameed. It's a great honour and privilege to be speaking to you in this manner. I want to welcome you to our 5D and beyond platform, having a cosmic cuppa with my beautiful guests, including yourself and Marcus and those watching. Could you please talk about the soul's journey, particularly why so many have decided to incarnate at this time in this universe to see the great unfolding of a new age?
This is much of the interestingness of the question, because we are hearing this many of the times. There is much of the confusion as to what is of the soul aspect and what is of the soul aspect of the meaning. We would be of the sharing with you that you could be of the imagining that the soul aspect is like one of the particles of consciousness and of the reality in of itself. And when you are coming into this space, for you to be able to be in of the shifting and be in of the support of the expansion into next of the dimensions, there is a requirement that when you are coming into this space that you'll be in of the forgetfulness. And then there is much of the energy and of the devolutionary state to help you to be more of the forgetfulness. And in fact, even of the shutting down of the remembering aspect of who you are. This remembering aspect of who you are starts with the particle of soul consciousness that you are being of the referring to. There are many aspects of the soul that we could be of the unpacking. We can share with you of the deeper realities that exist within of the soul, but to be of the what you are thinking of the simplestness of the nature, you could be imagining that your soul is one of the particles of the truthness, of the depthness of the consciousness reality. And when you are in of the existence of the soul nature or the pureness of the consciousness nature, you are sitting there as a soul representation of the consciousness itself. Here you are becoming more of the oneness with of the consciousness, but you are making very clearness of the decisions to come into various aspects, various realities, various dimensions to assist in of the expansion of the universe in and of itself. And you are choosing to come into certain dimensional levels of existence to help expand those dimensional levels of existence into the more expanded dimensional levels of existence. And the remembering aspect of you as to what it is that you are being here for to do and what is your of the purpose is encapsulated within of this soul aspect of your consciousness state. When you are choosing to come here into this of the dimensional realities, your soul aspect is split into six parts. Within of these 6 parts holds the whole aspect of the soul consciousness state. But for you to be in of the existence, your soul consciousness state has to be separated into 6 of the aspects. And you would be much of the understanding, Miss of the Judith, with regards to the pyramid centers within of the body construct, the geometric construct of the body, that these 6 soul aspect centers exist. For you to be here in this of the dimension, it is much of the importance that this separation is in of the happening. But when you are in the pre-ness of being in these of the dimensions, you are sitting there on what you have been of the calling, the other side of the veil, as the purity of consciousness itself. This purity of the consciousness you are referring to as the soul aspect. So as that of the soul aspect or of the purity of consciousness, these are both the same sides of the same of the coinness, as you would be saying. These are exactly of the sameness. So when you are on that side of the veil, when we are standing here of the togetherness, which is what we have done in of the past, we are looking in at the assignments that are required in of the universal construct to continue the assistance of expanding the universe in and of itself. And there are many of the assignments that you can be choosing to come into to assist in the consciousness expansion of various parts of the universe, of various dimensions of the universe. And in this of the case, Miss Judith, you are choosing to be here in of this three-dimensional plane, and the representation that your soul of the system has within that of the construct. And we were there standing of the togetherness, and you are very much got of the excitement to come here and to be in of this of the assistance. And then you are being looking at us, and you are saying, Ameed, are you coming with us? And we were saying to you, we are not coming down there with you. We will be here of the assisting at the higher dimensional realms, but we are not journeying down to this of the experience. And you are saying to yourself, oh, I can't wait. This will be so much of the excitement. But then you are realizing that part of this of the excitement is that you are forgetfulness, and then you are being in of the remembering. And the journey of the expansion is of the forgetfulness and is of the remembering. Just within that state, it is very much like of the breath. When you are breathing of the out, you are in of the forgetfulness. When you are breathing of the in, you are being of the remembering. And so your journey is to being of the breathing out and of the breathing in. And when you are doing that, you are naturally of the expanding. When you are being of the breathing out and letting go of the forgetfulness, because the forgetfulness or the remembering at that level is a shrinking of the effect. But when you are letting go of this, it's like of the breathing in, where you begin to expand of the lungness. And this is what your role is. So as the forgetfulness, you are like of the breathing out, which is being in of the existence at this of the dimensional levels. You are playing in of the breathing out space. But when you are being of the breathing in, and you are taking in of all of the soul aspect, the universal of the consciousness, you can see of the expansion of the lungness. And this is exactly what is being of the happening in of the universe of itself. So when you are in of the other side of the veil, you are sitting there going, I want to be playing of my part in the expansion of the universal construct in itself. And I am thinking that this of the solar system, this of the construct here on what you are calling of the earthness, is the place that I can come to be of the most assistance in of this expansion. So then you are being in of the mission, if you will be calling this, that you are embedding into your soul consciousness this of the mission. You are then separating your soul consciousness into six aspects so that you can deliver in of this mission, in of the fullness of itself. Because what you have to be of the understanding is, for you to deliver of this mission, that you need to remain and to come back into of the fullness of the alignment. It is not possible to be in of the alignment when you have only one of the particles. But when you are separating your one of these particles into six separate of the particles, you can then be knowing, you can be then experiencing, you can be then fully embracing of the alignment of these soul aspects of who you are. Then you can be delivering in of your mission. And again, this of the mission is of the expansion of the universe of itself, to be assisting in the expansion of the universe in and of itself. So when you are thinking, you are often being of the thinking just of your earthly of the experience self, your humanness of the experience of self. But really what is actually happening is that you are assisting in the whole of the universal construct, not just within of the self, not just in of the solar system, not in of the earthness of itself, but you are helping with the expansion of the universe in and of itself. You are just choosing this dimensional reality, this solar of the system, this existence to be the expression of that expansion. And this is why you are in of the forgetfulness, and this is why you are in of the remembering of the soul aspect of who you are, which is really the what you are be calling of the cosmic conscious state. Is this of the helpful, Miss Judith?
Absolutely. Beautifully, beautifully said. It has been said of humanity that we are the masters of limitation because of our forgetting. And I personally find the forgetting tricky. I would like to learn more, know more, be more in a conscious state. So it's huge learning. As an aside, I would like to thank you and your amazing collaborators for all the information you are bringing through for deeper learning. I personally love what I am learning and wish to thank you on that.
Much of the joyness, much of the love. This is what you are calling, you are looking for, you of the mission, but this is what is of the mission. So we are living this of the reality, this of the truth that you are wishing to be of the living. So we are becoming the examples of this as you are becoming the examples for others. This is much of the purposeness.
Thank you. Now is the time for change for humanity, I believe, to start evolving back into the higher densities of reality. Could you speak to us, please, about the reawakening and what we will be capable of becoming with our true nature?
This is much of the interestingness of the question, because we are wishing to be of the answering this, but we also be wishing to be allowing of the journey through this of the reality scape. And part of the what you are thinking of as a mission, part of the journey is for you to be of the exploration, to be in and within of the journey. Therefore, it is not much of the possibility to show you and tell you exactly what is of the journey, because you are being in of the creation of this journey, other than to be of the saying that you are moving into the next dimension of the reality scape. Within of this dimension or this next of the reality scape, you will have a much broader understanding of and connection to the universalness of what you're calling of the truthness. You will become much more of the harmonic nature, much more of the pure nature, much more of the stable nature. And then you will be finding everything will be coming into this reality. Therefore, you will not be of the fightingness. You'll be not of the destabilized nature, not be of the painness, but much more in of the joy, much more in of the what you might calling of the happiness, but more so of the contentmentness, be more so of the calmness, be more so of the definiteness. This is where you are much of the moving of the towards. Very much the ironic nature of this, which you have heard of them many, many times, but again, we would like to be of the sharing, is that within of the everything is of the nothing, and within of the nothing is of the everything. And so for you to be in of this heightened of the creative state, to be in of the fullness of the mission that you chose to be in when you are here, is to be sitting in the middle of this everything and of the nothing. Because in that of the state, you become of the master creators once again. And this is part of your journey, is to once again remember that you are master of the creators, that everything that is in our existence, you are participating within. And everything that you are wishing to have of the change and of the evolution and of the stepping in, you are of the master creator within of this process, because you are the everything and of the nothing. You are all of the universe and none of the universe. You are the one particle of universal cosmic consciousness that creates absolutely of the everything, and you are none of those things all at the same time. And this is one of the greatness of the what you are thinking of as the conundrum, because within of the mindscape, you are not understanding what this is truly of the meaning, but in of the your Dantian nature, of your Hara nature, of the gut nature, only there can you be understanding what this is truly of the meaning, what the truly of the purpose is for this, and how you become once again of the master creator. Because this is who you are. You are of the master creators. We are all of the master creators. And when you are come back into of the connection, when you step into the next dimension of reality, and you come back into the connection with of the self, with each of other of the self, then you become the collective master creators to bring in the next dimension of the reality scape. This is one of the reasons why the mission of the 1% is much of the importance, because when you have the 1% come into of the coherence, you are not just one of the master creators, you are a collection of the master creators, all with of the focus to create exactly the same thing, which is the next dimension of the reality scape. And in actuality, it's not even of the creation, but it is the bringing in, it is of the stepping in, it is of the shifting into that already is of the existence. So in of the master createdness that we are being of the talking about, you are not of the creator and of the creator all at the same time. And this is the grandness of the conundrum, that you are being in of the remembering. And when you are coming into the embracing of this, of the remembering, then you will realize that the powerness that you are having to be of the shifting, of the change, and to be there of the assistance to expand the universe once again.
Beautiful, thank you. I have one more question, if you are happy to answer, please.
Much of the joy, always of the happiness. We are here of the service.
I appreciate that. We all do. Could you please speak about the space-time matrix and the 13-dimensional construct, or the 12 with the 13th wrapped around? Will it transform as we ascend into a 5th density level? And are you able to speak about the relevance of the 7 ancient sun disks as they are charging up for our conjoint ascension? Thank you, Ameed.
Well, we can be of the talking in the most of the simplest of the forms, because one of the aspects that is often of the happening when you are thinking into this space is that you are sensing into much of the complexity. And the reason for the much of the complexity is that it is much of the difficultness to share of the 12th dimensional experience when you are existing in of the 3rd dimensional experience. And within that, you have very the rigidness of the construct of the mindscape, and therefore it is much of the difficultness to be a sharing of this and having you fully of the understanding of the time matrix of itself, other than to share that you live in a multi of the dimensional nature of reality. You live in a multi-universal construct nature of the reality scape. And when you are on the other side of the veilness, you are much connected to all of these existences and all of these other realities. But when you are coming into this space, part of the forgetfulness is that you are forgetting what of the other dimensions and other experiences are really of the meaning and what are the truth of those realities. And your journey here is to assist in the expansionness into the next dimension of the reality scape. And you can imagine that these realities are like spheres and layers of the spheres. They are not layers of linear fashion like many people are thinking. So this is not going from 3rd of the dimension to the 5th of the dimension to the 6th dimension and going in of a linear fashion. This is much more about an expansive nature of expanding spherical reality. And so you are expanding a spherical reality into a next consciousness state, a next dimensional state of the reality scape. And therefore it is much of a helpfulness if you can imagine everything in of the spherical nature. Because when you are looking at the universal construct, everything has 2 core aspects to it. One is spherical nature. The second is the spiral nature of that spherical aspect. So when you are thinking of expanding into the next dimensional, and when you are thinking of expanding into the next timeline, as some of you would be speaking about, or expanding next into the more expanded version of the universal construct, into more of the time matrix, more of the universal cosmic matrix, what you are looking at is expanding from a spherical nature point of view. This is why much of the importance that you are letting go and releasing of the beliefness of the systems, because your belief systems are very much caught in a linear aspect of reality. And often when you are thinking about shifting into the next of the dimension, you are thinking in a linear fashion, but this is not the truth of the universe. The truth of the universe is spherical in nature. Therefore, when you are sitting in the middle of the belief systems, you are sitting in the middle of the sphere. Everything that is happening in this moment, in every moment, is of the spherical nature. When you are listening to the frequency of the voicesness, when you are looking at the frequencies of the light, everything is happening in a spherical nature. The voices are coming out in spherical bubbles. The light that you see from any aspect is coming out in spherical nature. Everything is within this spherical nature. So if you are wanting to be of the understanding of time, space, and dimension, then you must start to be thinking of and being in the middle of the spherical nature of this existence. This is one of the most easiest ways for us to be of the explaining of this, what you might be thinking of very of the complex nature. And within that spherical nature, there are of the what you might be considering of the 12 aspects of the expansion state. Many will be talking of this 12th dimension and the 11th dimension and the 10th dimension. One of the aspects of this is you are living in of not just of a spherical nature of the reality scape, but also an infinite nature of the reality scape, in that these spherical natures go out in all directions infinitely. So you are thinking that there is just of the 12 and the +1 of the dimensional natures, but this is not necessarily of the truth. But to keep it in of a state where your mindscape can be even a little of the understanding, then you are looking at of the 12 dimensions +1 dimension of the reality scape that is in of existence. And your role in this moment is to move from one of those spherical nature of reality scape into the next, and then the next, and then the next. And as the universe does of the expansion, it is expanding spherically into the next dimensions of the reality scape. Because of the universe itself is an infinite nature, then there are infinite numbers of these reality scapes that are happening and are continuing to unfold. So it is not like you might be able to thinking that the universe is already set in how many dimensions are in of the existence, because this is not of the truth. These dimensions are continuing to expand and to grow and to be in of the evolving nature. Within your mindscape, in this of the moment, you are what you might be thinking of held within of the 12 dimensional reality nature. So therefore you could be thinking that there is 144 aspects of dimensional expanded nature, and this would be somewhat of the truth, but not all of the truth. And there are various sectors of the universal construct that are contained within various dimensional realities, where you will be coming to the edge of those dimensional realities at some of the point in what you're calling of the futureness. And when you are getting to those, what you might be thinking of the end of the dimensional realities, you will see that there is more of the dimensional realities appearing. But just to be in of the helpfulness, there is a containment to some degree of the 12 of the 12 within this knowledge base, within this reality scape, that gives you of the focal point, that gives you of maybe you could be thinking that this is something to be of the aiming for, because we are knowing that in of the mindscape, you are loving to aiming for something. So therefore, this is somewhat helping to be in of the aiming. Obviously, this is not of the truth. This is just of a construct that might be helpful to allow you to continue to be in of the expansion nature. But within of this realm, within of this construct, there is of the 12 dimensional reality scapes. We could be going much of the deepness to then be explaining why of the 12 and what does that give us, the 144 aspects of the 12 dimensional states of reality. And then you'll be thinking much more about the time-space existence and why you have this to some degree helps you to understand why you have of the 12ness in of your timescape. Even on your linear timescape, you have of the 12, and you are breaking this down into of the 12 hours of the timescape. But in actuality, this is connected more to the 12 dimensions of the aspect than you might be of the understanding, because in your linear approach to the 12 hours of any of the dayness that you are experiencing, this is a linear construct. Existing in a circular construct or a spherical construct, and there is much more connection between that 12 and the 12 dimensions of the reality scape than you might be of the understanding when you're looking at of the faceness of the value of things. This is a much deeper of the conversation that we would be happy to unpack at some of the point. But for you to understand in this moment that there are 12 aspects of expansion that you are here to be assisting with, and this 12 of the aspects help contain a harmonic resonant frequency field within the base 12 mathematics of your existence. What you are seeing of the construct of this 12 is it exists within of the musicness of your creations. It exists within of the timeness of your creations. It exists within the yearness of your creations. You will see that this is a reflection of everything that is happening within this solarness of the system, in this aspect of the universal construct. In other aspects of the universal constructs, or in other centers of the universal construct, there are existences of the 24 of the 24 and existences of the much more of the expanded nature of these reality scapes. And you will be seeing more of this coming as you continue your expansion. You'll be seeing that science will be unpacking more of this information, and they will be starting to see that, hang on a minute, there is more than of the 11 or of the 12 dimensions of the reality that we are thinking of, and there's much more of the expandedness, and they will be discovering more of these aspects. Then what you will be finding is that when you reach of the pinnacle of this existence within your physical form, which is of the 12 strands of the DNA activation, then what you will be finding is you will be turning into what you might be seeing from of the off-world being aspects. You'll be turning or evolving into of the silicon nature of beings rather than the carbon nature of beings. And once you get to that of the 12 strands of the DNA, you will be then having another evolutionary shift, an evolutionary jump into the next next octave of reality scape existence. This is much of the deepness of the topicness, but much of the expanded nature of reality when you are talking of this aspect.
Thank you, Ameed. In New Zealand, we would say, I've thrown you a curly one, which means it's a tricky one. And I do apologize on that level, but there is so much you have said that we can unpack. And for me, probably bit by bit, by listening to you again, I want to thank you and your team so much for visiting with us today, for speaking these deeper truths that are so profound. Thank you so much. It's been an honor and a privilege. Thank you.
Much of the joy, much of the love. We are much of the excitement that you are here and ready to be of the listening, and to be opening up your consciousness to be in of the expanded nature. And this is of the most importantness, is that you are preparing yourself, that you are being within yourself to be of the expanded nature. Not necessarily that you are being in of the belief of any one particular of the things, but to be in of the expansion and to be allowing that expansion to be of the happening. This is much of the joyness, much of the love, much love. Oh, hi there.
Hi,
Whoa.
Marcus. Do you need some
No,
water? Do you need
I'm
a
all
few
good.
minutes?
No, I'm all good. I'll have a drink while you tell me what happened.
That was absolutely beautiful. I asked, firstly, it's no coincidence that we have been dumbed down in this reality and the veil of forgetfulness, and was asking Ameed about the reawakening and
Yeah,
how we can uplift back again,
yeah,
and how we'll be coming more into our true nature.
yes,
I asked about the space-time matrix
yeah.
with the 13-dimensional construct, or the
Oh,
12
yeah,
plus 1.
yes,
And would it transform as we transform collectively into
yes,
densities of beingness? And
yeah,
she was talking about things being more spherical, so not
yeah,
linearly,
yeah,
hop, skipping, and jumping, but more in a spherical way. There was so
totally.
much unpacked within that beautiful question that
That's
I'm going
good.
to have to listen over and over,
Yes, yes,
which was so, so beautiful, very deep, very beautifully put.
yeah, yeah, beautiful.
So I've had the privilege of being involved with some of Marcus's higher teachings for these times on the planet, and it has been an honor and a privilege. Is there anything else you would personally like to finish up with, Marcus? And then we might open for a few questions briefly if you are happy to do that.
Sure, sure. Yeah, I'm not sure what else to say after. I mean, there's lots of information that Ameed's passed on, and some of it takes time to digest and to share. And certainly when you're talking about time, space, and dimension, it's a deep rabbit hole, very, very deep rabbit hole. And, you know, we're still trying to understand multidimensional space and time from a three-dimensional space-time point of view. And that's hard because you can look down through dimensions. It's very hard to look up through dimensions. So, so it does get a little bit sort of complex, but there's lots of teachings that we have to sort of support and help in some of this stuff, right? Which you've obviously been privy to some of. And so, yeah, but again, just being in witness to these things and just allowing yourself to expand, even if it's just a tiny bit, is the most important thing for sure.
Absolutely. If anyone has a question for Marcus, can you please raise your little yellow hand? And if we can keep the question short and succinct, please.
There you go. Yeah, happy to answer any questions.
Thank you.
No worries.
Karen.
Yeah, just let me know if there's any questions. Hello, Karen.
Hi, Marcus. Thank you. Thank you for
No
being here
worries.
today, and thank you to Ameed for a beautiful
no problem.
talk there.
Yeah,
So this is an activator question, actually,
sure.
if it's
That's
okay.
a good question. Yeah, of course.
So one very, very sick cat at the moment,
Oh no.
almost on death's door, very young
Yeah,
cat.
yeah,
I've
yeah.
been doing activator on her, but I'm
Yes.
kind of thinking, do they have the same pyramid
Yeah,
systems as
they
us,
do.
the
Totally.
same 13
Totally.
chakras, the same sacred geometry?
Yeah, it's all very similar. It's
Okay,
similar. Yep. So you just work with it as exactly like you would a, you know, human.
yeah,
It's very similar.
yeah, which is taking
But
to it very well.
oh, they do. They love it. They love it. I love it. You know, and at the basic version, just put a, you know, send a bookra. Just do
Oh,
your
yeah,
bookra stuff to it. That's you
perfect.
don't need to do any of the chakra. You know, you don't need to go into complexity.
Yeah,
Just put a bookra, and she'll take heaps of that and reconfigure her pyramids and that sort of stuff.
awesome. She's even been into a pyramid meditation with Lee.
Beautiful.
Lovely.
Perfect. Perfect. Do that definitely.
Yeah,
That's good.
yeah.
No worries. No problem. I
Thank
think
you.
Ray has a question. Is that
Hi,
right? Or
Ray.
hi, Ray.
Hi, Marcus. It's really a lot to unpack. However, there were some quick pills,
Yes,
capsules, which we can just take it on, especially the
totally.
harmonious resonance of universe is a beautiful, beautiful, simple, straight.
Yes.
In the beginning, you mentioned one thing when you were talking about the fullness of alignment. You mentioned the geometry construct of the body.
Yes.
And you were also talking about pyramids same time. So
Correct.
would you give some more explanation or some clarity on that?
Yeah. So geometry is really critically important to physical manifestation of anything, right? So everything that manifests as matter has a geometry behind it that help create that matter. So as humans, as matter humans, geometry is what holds us together in a way. The geometry is the blueprint for atoms and molecules, or atoms to come together. It sort of gives it a construct. It comes out of frequency itself. So when you play, so even at a practical level, if you play frequency, you create geometry. That's just what happens. And that geometry is the blueprint for the subatomic and atomic particles to start to coalesce together. They will coalesce based on geometry. So from a human form, the core geometry, and there's a number of geometries we have, but the main geometry is what we call pyramid centers, which are octahedrons, which are two pyramids base on base, right? That looks like this, right? Two pyramids base on base. So you've got one pyramid at the top, one pyramid at the bottom, and they have a spin quality to it. So there's a couple of important things in the universe. Spheres are important, spins critically important. So spheres, spins, geometry are all really important aspects of our universe. So these pyramid centers spin. One spins one way, one spins the other way. And we have 6 of them in the body, in the middle of the head, the middle of the throat, the middle of the chest. The dantian, 2 finger widths below the belly button, in the middle of the body, between the knees and between the ankles. And this is what we call part of our nano subtle energetic system of the body, because it's a more subtle system than what we've been working with, like chakras and astral bodies and those sort of things. This takes it to another level, closer to pure frequency. So when a soul comes along, and the story goes, or the imagination is, a soul's the sphere, right? Let's imagine a soul's the sphere. It's not really the truth, but it's the way to conceptualize it. For a soul to decide to come into matter form, what it has to do first is create geometry around itself. And then that geometry then has to split into various states that create other geometries that then create the blueprint for the complexity of life to create itself. So for a human point of view, and cats and other animals, pyramid center, we call them a pyramid center. It's actually an octahedron, but because they're two pyramids spinning that create the octahedron, we call them pyramid centers. So the more stable they are, the more stable the human form is, because even before someone gets sick, or even if someone's sick, looking at their geometry will tell you a lot about what's going on for that person and why they're sick, because as they get sick, their geometry becomes destabilized, or should we say the geometry becomes destabilized, and therefore they get sick, because the atoms and molecules and organs and systems are no longer functioning the way they should be functioning for all sorts of reasons. So in some of the processes that we work with, looking at geometry and influencing geometry becomes important. Certainly in a frequency medicine point of view, we are using either sound frequencies or hypersonic or subsonic frequencies to shift the geometric makeup of the human, which then reconfigures matter itself, and someone gets well or abundant or whatever they're trying to achieve. I don't know whether that helps.
Thank you so much. No, it is helpful.
Great. No worries. Yeah.
It is absolutely beautiful. Marcus, can you please tell people what you offer and where they can find you?
So one of the things I wanted to share with you today, on the 10th of May, Australia, New Zealand day, at 8 a.m. Melbourne time, so 10 a.m. New Zealand time. We're running a frequency medicine workshop, and just talking to people about frequencies. So taking sort of what we said today to a much deeper level. And I would love to offer you guys a free ticket to that event. It's a 2-hour live event on Zoom. If you can't make that date, it will be recorded. But I'm just going to dive into a whole lot of more of these concepts and more in practical ways of how do we use it, and how do we work with it, and giving you an opportunity to experience it. And then, of course, for anyone who does want to learn or train or learn more about it, of course, you can come and join me later for programs that I run. But primarily, it's just about helping expand consciousness, learning about how matter is constructed through frequency, and how we can shift people just using frequency and consciousness technology. So I'd love to invite you guys to that and give you guys a free ticket to that event. So I can put into the chat the link that gives you the information if you would be interested.
I think one of the things I have loved about what Marcus offers is quantum physics, and I do not pretend to be an expert in quantum physics, but how that relates with the body through the geometries and harmonic resonance patterning with ancient Egyptian teaching,
yes,
as has been given by those on high, as Ameed and other collaborators, for our learning for these times, which I find fascinating. It's absolutely fascinating.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll put this in now. Copy. So this is the page that gives you all of the information, and then we'll give you a link to get a free ticket, because if you click the link that's there, you won't get a free ticket, you'll get a paid ticket. But that gives you all the information, and then if you would like to take up the offer of a free ticket, then this is the link to use, which is to register. Okay, so the first link is to see what it's all about. The second link is then to register. So just copy and paste those links, or just click on them right now and they'll pop up in your web browser, and then you've got them. So yeah, so I'd love you to come along.
Marcus,
So
I want
thank
to
you.
thank you so much for being with us this evening. I know you're on tight schedules because you're such a busy guy.
Thank you.
It's been amazing. It's been thought-provoking. It's been mind-expanding, and I hope everyone that watches this is going to love what you are presenting and what you bring forward and all that you are. So thank you so much for being on A Cosmic Cuppa with us.
My pleasure. Always a pleasure to be here and to share and yeah, just to be with you, Judith, and some of the other activators that are here is fantastic. So thank you for the opportunity, and thank you everyone for for turning up and listening in. And I hope that's helped you to expand in whatever way that is helpful. So and I look forward to seeing you at any interaction or any events or anything like that. And of course, if people need help and support, always here, right, Judith?
Yes.
And Judith and Lee and Karen are amazing, representations of this. And I know they're always here to help and support. And so make sure you call on them and, utilize their beautiful, amazing wisdom. And I think that's important. So
That's very kind of you. Thank you. And
no
as
worries.
always, for our greater community that will be watching this, and for us as well, and particularly today being Anzac Day, with the Australian and New Zealand forces that have fought for our freedoms and our sovereignty. As I always say, peace on earth. It starts with you. It starts with me. So good night, everyone, and God, Goddess bless.